All right, Mastermind is next week. And for those of you that were coming here to hear one of the best Bible teachers in Kenosha, Andy is not here, and you are stuck with me. So Wow, I wasn't expecting that. I was going to say, since admission is free, sometimes you get what you pay for, and well, here I am. Hi. The second response that I kind of want to go over is, for the parents in the room, you might be a little nervous because you realize that if I'm up here, you're wondering who's watching my kids, right? Don't worry. I recruited the best fifth graders I could find. Your kids are in good hands. Nothing to worry about. As long as the pager doesn't say H-E-L-P, we're all fine. The teams are actually led by Arizona and Heidi, and they do a fantastic job with early childhood and elementary. And it's because of their hard work that I get to be up here talking, and we'll see what happens, When I found out that I was preaching on parenting, my first thought was like, I'm not qualified. So I went over my resume in my head, and I'm like, I'm 28 years old, I've been married for 6 years, and I've got 3 kids. So where does that put me on the scale of expertise? There's this guy, his name is Malcolm Gladwell, and he has this 10,000 hour principle he wrote about in a book, and he said, if you perform a task or practice something for 10,000 hours, you're considered an expert in that field. So, being the nerd that I am, I crunched the numbers. And that's 5 years, 11 months, and 1 day equals out to 51,859 hours. I'm a master parent 5 times over. Yes. Except, I do sleep, I do go to work, and, I have hobbies, like I like baseball. So once you factor out all that stuff, I'm actually at 9,076 hours as of this message right now. So just a little shy. Got about, 900 hours to go until I'm an expert. So how about this? Since my wife stays home and she works twice as hard as I do, she's definitely hit the 10,000 hour mark. She should probably come up here and finish instead of me, right? Yeah. To be honest with you, this week was really stressful. I put a lot of time and energy into, researching all this stuff. And as I'm like, okay, got to keep my mind on this stuff. I kind of lost my marbles this week. And for those of you that aren't familiar, that's a phrase that I got super stressed out and I kind of took it out on you. So I just want to start off the message this morning by saying that as a parent and as a believer, the only difference between me and you guys in the audience is the fact that I have the microphone. And I want to apologize to my wife for taking out that stress on you. And, sometimes, as Joe Madden says, I let the pressure exceed the pleasure of, encountering God's word. And so, yeah, got that off my heart. We can be on a level playing field. We're not perfect here, so, yeah. I did actually graduate from college. I went to school for ministry, so you don't have to worry too much about that. But as a directionless 19-year-old millennial, I did what everybody else would do. I took classes in everything. I wanted to study adults. I wanted to study kids. I studied teens, multicultural, world religions. I didn't know what I was going to be called to do. So I was like, let me just learn about everything, and maybe God will give me a direction at some point. And to be honest, there are a couple things I learned. And the first, regarding kids, is that there's no such thing as an accidental child, only an accidental parent. You know what I mean? It's that, I'm just kidding. But no, honestly, we believe here that every child is made in the image of God. And that is the foundational belief of our kids ministry. It's what keeps us focused. It's what motivates everyone that you see serving week in and week out to do the best job that we can with your kids. So today we're actually going to look at a portion of the Bible that was foundational to the early Jewish faith. It was called the Shema, and it's actually Deuteronomy chapter 6, verses 4 through 9 is the whole chunk. But for sake of brevity, and because this is only a 1-week series, we're going to keep it short. We're going to look at one little section in the middle. So if you want to turn there in your Bibles or flip there in your app or however. If you don't have a Bible, it's on the screen. I'm just going to read it, starting with I didn't write the verse numbers down, so here we go. I'm just going to love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your strength. These words I am giving you today are to be in your heart. Repeat them to your children. Talk about them when you sit in your house, when you walk along the road, when you lie down, when you get up. Bind them as a sign on your hand, and let them be a symbol on your forehead. Write them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. So we're gonna really focus in on this idea of repeating them to our children. Us as parents, it's our responsibility to really invest in the kids that God's put in our life. And the cool thing about this section is it's actually one of the first texts that parents would teach their kids. You know, this is like, what's the greatest commandment? You see part of that in here. This is like the whole foundation of the Jewish faith in 5 easy verses. So yeah, we're just going to zero in on this. And the main point, if there's nothing you take away, just take this. No one has more potential to influence a child than a parent. And for all intents and purposes in today's society, we're going to look at parenting not so much as a position, but as a verb, because I know that nuclear families are kind of a thing of the past. And I want you to know, like, as you're sitting here thinking, like I'm talking about kids, like, look at kids as who's in your sphere of influence. You know, who do you have an influence on? Who can you like pull under your wing? Maybe it's like a mentoring relationship. Maybe it's a niece or a nephew. But seriously, like, if the parent is the number one influence, like, and maybe you're not there yet in your life, like, take that number 2 step. Who can you be an influence in? So as I was talking about parenting, I want to just ease some tension here and say that you're never going to be 100% sure of everything that you're doing, that you're saying, how you discipline your kids. We're never going to know for sure how it works out. But you can come to understand the kids that you have an influence over, right? So I thought we would go back to college and I could share with you a story of one of my least favorite professors. This guy absolutely loved history. And when I say loved, I mean his whole office was decked out in history. He would dress up for class periods. He, as I'm up here preaching, that's what he did every single day in class. He'd stand on his soapbox and he would just go on and on and on for an hour every single day. The worst part was I had him for 2 semesters, and you could just see it. He would walk into class, like, I'm the history buff. He would get up in front of the class, and what would he start doing?
He starts monologuing.
He starts like this prepared speech about how feeble I am compared to him, how inevitable my defeat is, how the world will soon be his, yada, yada, yada. Yammering. I mean, the guy has me on a platter, and he won't shut up.
All day, every day, 2 semesters. I don't want to tell you how much it cost me to be in his class. He would make us buy a $100 textbook. The first day of class, say, hey, just so you know, that textbook you bought, disregard it. I have this printed note material that I want you to memorize for my tests, And I'm just like, okay, so you published these notes in 1980, and you're still using the same notes in 2009, 2010? Like, oh my goodness. And at the end of the semester, I don't mean to rag on the guy, but you'll understand my point here for a second. Like, he gets up there and he's like, no one seems to like my teaching style because we fill out these student-generated reviews. And he's like, I've been doing this for like 20 years and no one likes my teaching style. Maybe, as college students, you should change your learning style instead of expecting me to change my teaching style. And I'm like, if I applied that logic to kids' church, we would probably have 3 kids in the kids' ministry. We'd be using the same curriculum from the 1980s. And the only reason my kids are here is because they'd have to be, right? In order to influence our kids, we have to know them, okay? When parents and as leaders and as influencers, we are going to come down to their level. We're not going to expect them to pick up the Bible and read through Leviticus and Numbers and Deuteronomy. We're going to take the Bible and we are going to bring it to them, okay? So I thought it would be really cool. For some of you in here, you're like, I've never really checked out church before. This is more going to be like some child psychology. And we're going to look at developmentally what happens at the 4 main phases of adolescence. So our kids' curriculum actually funded this project. It's super cool. It's called the Phase Project. They got a blog. Check them out online. And they interviewed all these teachers and influencers in kids' psychology around the country, and they wanted to know, how can the church best meet the needs of kids? And so started the Phase Project. There's books out. There's actually an 18-book series over every single book of your kid's life. If you'd like to go on Amazon, purchase that. It's a great resource. If you want to, talk to me after service, I'll help you in any way I can. I have most of the books, so I really like it, and it's been helpful to me. So we're going to start with early childhood. Okay, so in early childhood, preschoolers think like artists. They engage the world through their senses, and the best way to establish a relationship with them is to embrace their physical needs. They are motivated by safety, and they will receive love when their needs are met. Pretty self-explanatory, right? Cool. Next stage is elementary. Elementary kids think like scientists. Yes, that is the same kid. They come to understand the world around them through evidence that they can repeatedly test, hence the scientist term. They learn through observation, so the more frequently that you can connect a concept to their everyday life, the better that they will retain it. You can win with them when you engage their interests, and if you don't hear anything else that I say in the message about elementary kids specifically, remember, keep it fun. As a kids pastor, if there's one area that I'm going to get, this guy, I got one criticism for him, it's that kids' church is too fun. And at this stage, that is exactly what they need. So we keep them active, and I'm passionate about that. So hopefully, you don't get any stories when they're in the car on the way home saying, I don't like elementary, because the point is to have it be fun. And if I'm not doing my job, then somebody else should be doing it, right? Okay, now we're going to go into middle school. And in middle school, these kids, yep, they're not the same kid. No, definitely not the same kid. These kids think like engineers, and I'm not trying to, stereotype engineers, just saying. They solve problems by connecting concepts to create an understanding with things like motive and perspective. It's almost as if at this stage, their brains are being changed from the really black and white, connect the dots learning of the elementary school to more of a shades of gray approach in middle school, where they can factor in that motive and kind of like perspective and say, oh, if I do this, but I do it this way, I'm not going to get in trouble. The best way to connect relationally with a middle schooler is to affirm their personal journey. They're becoming an individual. You're going to notice at this point that they're going to like a whole lot of different stuff. So really affirm who they are as an individual. And then in high school, our high schoolers, yep, same guy, they think like philosophers. They want to understand the world around them, and they learn best by processing out loud. Now, I know what you're thinking for parents of high schoolers. You're calling my kid a philosopher, but I can't get him out of the bed before the crack of noon, right? I hear you. But honestly, they're going to learn best through debate, through hearing multiple perspectives, and by being able to just apply their own reasoning to whatever problems they're experiencing or whatever you're talking about at your house, right? They're motivated by freedom, and as a parent, it's your job to mobilize them. Get them out there, get them doing something, and all the while, you want to be establishing trust by just letting them go. That's what it is in high school. Is let them go. You want to go and have a lemonade stand? Make a lemonade stand. You want to write an app? Make an app. I mean, there was a kid at a TED Talk teaching, all these tech CEOs about how to write an app, and I'm like, you're like 16 years old. Like, seriously? Yeah. High schoolers have it in them. Let them go. And with this whole child psychology thing, the one thing is through every single stage, what you're doing as a parent is you're establishing trust. With the kids in your life, you're building trust with them, you're creating that relationship, and that's going to determine when it comes to life's toughest questions, whether they can trust you enough to ask you or whether they're going to run to Google. I mean, that's how everyone's learning these days, and I'd rather as a parent have them trust me enough to bring their questions to me than bring them to the internet. So, and I know that for many of you in here, you're like, yay, Pastor Will's talking, but I don't really want to learn about parenting. Maybe you're a single kid in college and you're like, yeah, not a parent yet. I can just hit the snooze button and come back next week, right? But what better way to put this into practice than by serving in the kids ministry, right? Yeah. You guys, just picture this with me, okay? For those of you that haven't found your spouse yet, you're sitting or standing in the infant room, holding my sweet baby Charlie. You're rocking him to sleep, and you see his eyes start to close, and then you look across the room, and there he or she is. What a perfect start to the love story, right? Parenting is not a profession. It is a priority. And that's why we are going to aim to create an influence that will last a legacy by parenting with the end in mind. The fact is, 100 years from now, your great-great-grandchildren probably won't know your name, and if they do, it'll just be another line in the family tree, right? And we put so much stock into the legacy that we build, the life that we build. You know, is my life going to be worthy of the Hall of Fame someday? And honestly, that's not really what matters. In the passage in Deuteronomy that I shared with you guys earlier, you can see the intention that God has when he asks to talk about them when you're at home, to write them on the doorposts and gates of your house. You know, if tattoos are your thing, put them all over there and let your kids know that that God's word is significant in your life, you know. But when we're talking about legacy, I thought it would be practical and appropriate to bring up baseball, because everybody can understand a great sports story, and everybody knows that my favorite sport is baseball. And if you didn't know, hello, my name is Will, and I love baseball. So this is going to be controversial to people in the room. So, you know, I'll take the internet trolls and all that stuff. You guys can let me have it. But I believe that Ted Williams is probably the best baseball player that's ever played. He's the last player that hit over 400 in a season. And at the age of 40, he won the batting title, which, if you're 40 years old and you're considered the best player in the sport, that's a tough thing to compare. I think the reason he doesn't make the record books as the best ever is because he actually served 5 years in the military. And, you know, if you lose 5 years of your prime, that's going to affect the record books, right? In Ted Williams' life, I was looking into how he trained, how he became such a great baseball player. And he would skip out of math class in school, which I really can't blame him, and he would walk the halls with a broomstick practicing his swing. When he was in the D League, he would be in the outfield, put his glove down, run to the foul line on the side of the field, grab a bat, and start swinging. I mean, he probably drove his coaches nuts, but he was single-mindedly focused about being a great hitter. And while he is in the Hall of Fame, and he won all these accolades and achievements, he really didn't leave a great legacy. I mean, if stats is all that mattered in life, then he's one of the best. But unfortunately, he wasn't really there for his family. He wasn't there for his kids. There's a story about when his first daughter was born. It was during the off season, which, I mean, you're not playing baseball, right? He went on a fishing trip and missed it completely. He was married 4 times, and, you know, there's not really too many good stories coming out of the lives of his kids. But on the other hand, there's a very famous Christian guy that I admire a lot. His name was Jonathan Edwards. And this guy lived in the 1700s, super huge in the Great Awakening. I think he was just a fantastic pastor and a leader in our country. And I just wanted to show you guys that here I am, 28 years old. I actually did do my research and read a book that predates 1990. So thank you. Thank you. I had to redeem myself from the history joke, right? All right. So Jonathan Edwards had 11 kids, and it was written about him that every single night he would spend an hour praying over each and every kid, not just for his children, but for the unborn children of the generations to come. Now, mind you, so they did this study where they tracked, like, okay, well, let's see what the family legacy of a Jonathan Edwards looks like. So they went out 150 years, and these stats are going to blow your mind. Just keep in mind the time frame. It's like 1700 to 1850 or something like that. He had in his family line 285 college graduates, 100 pastors, 100 lawyers, 80 public office holders, 75 military officers, 65 professors, 60 doctors, 30 judges in the courts, 13 presidents of colleges, 3 mayors, 3 governors, 3 U.S. senators, 2 deans of a university, and a vice president of the United States. And the coolest thing as I'm studying his life, I'm sharing this message with my wife during the week, and she goes, you know, my mom's side of the family is part of Jonathan Edwards' legacy. And I'm like, are you kidding me right now? So Jonathan Edwards was praying for my kids as he's praying a blessing over all of his kids in the 1700s. That is amazing. And I'm like, chalk me up as another, I know I'm not part of his bloodline, but I'm another pastor, you know? Put me on the list there, Coach. Yeah. So what kind of legacy do you as a parent want to leave? More importantly, what are you willing to do to get it? I want to propose to you that Emmanuel, this church family, is the greatest resource for you as a parent if you want to leave a good legacy. We have child dedications, as Tom mentioned earlier, and we're going to give you a book. I know that not everyone's an avid reader, but the book that we give you is like tweetable, memorable parenting advice on every single page. If you are a reader, there's the right side of the page that has paragraphs, and if you're not a reader, the left side of the page has one-liners that are perfect for social media, perfect for sharing with your in-laws, and perfect for those of you that just want to skim. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, it's helpful on both sides of the page. So we also have what we call small group leaders, or as I will call in this talk, they're phase experts. We have some leaders and volunteers in our kids ministry that have been serving with kids in a specific age group longer than I've been a pastor, which is amazing. And you as parents get to tap into their expertise over the specific stage of adolescence that the kids are in every single week. So partner with them. Ask them what your kids are talking about. Like, really connect your life with the life of the small group leader who's influencing your kids. And we have small group leaders throughout the kids ministry from birth all the way until they graduate high school. And then when they graduate high school, they go to life groups, which is like a small group leader for adults. And this is a time where the community can support you with prayer, where they can give you that encouragement that you need, where you can connect your life with the lives of other believers, and you can really just come and be real. Like, there's how many weeks has it been where we're sitting in life group and you're like, we're talking about something, and it's like, you know what, guys, I'm having this problem with parenting Zach or you know, in our marriage, and we just need some prayer, some advice. How do we get through this? And we've actually stopped life group and spent the entire night talking about that very issue. And that's what the church is supposed to be. Like, if you're hurting, come around the community and let us support you. You know what I'm saying? So tap into the resource that God's given you here at Emmanuel, because when you give other people an opportunity to love you, it's going to happen. The last point here actually comes from Jesus, and you're going to see that he takes one of the verses from the Old Testament and kind of raises it up an extra level. In Luke 10:27, Jesus says, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your strength, with all your mind, and love your neighbor as yourself." So for this section, I thought it would be appropriate if, you know, I'm a guy, and I would connect best with guys. So can I take, like, you know, the next 5 or 10 minutes just to talk to the guys, the dads in the room? Is that cool? Got permission? If I don't have permission, I'm the one with the microphone, so I'm going to do it anyway. But I want you to think about this question. If a company or a sports team either goes bankrupt or has a losing season, and you can see the Cleveland Browns if you got any, you know, case studies on this, who takes the blame? Not the head of HR, right? Yeah, it's either the coach or the CEO. Unless you're the Chicago Bears, then it's the kicker's fault, right? Hey, gotta say, it's true. It's not the kicking coach who is working with him every week. It was the kicker, right? Everybody in Chicago, fire him. And I'm like, he was good in Miami the year before. Like, what happened? Hey, I'm not a football guy. I'm gonna stick in my lane of baseball, you know. So just gotta get that out there. But no, it's the coach or the CEO. And guys, you are the lead pastor of your family. When you walk through those doors and you get in the car, the people that you're buckling up in the car seats, the people that you're tucking in at night, that's your little flock. You are responsible for leading them. And the worst part about it is culture has stacked the deck against us. Here are some classic examples. Lazy, stupid, gullible, disconnected. The guy in the middle here, for those of you that don't watch Stranger Things, he is like a stereotypical dad, or I wish it wasn't stereotypical, because all this stuff is happening in the show and he is completely clueless. Like the kid is the savior of the show and the dad is just a bumbling fool. So, just saying. We don't really have a really high, yardstick to measure up to. And for us guys, we give so much of our effort and energy into our jobs and our hobbies. And oftentimes we leave our families with the leftovers, don't we? Influence is sustained when we are present in all 4 of the areas that Jesus highlighted: heart, soul, mind, and strength. So if this was a test, I don't think it's much of a stretch to say that as guys, we're pretty good on loving our family with our strength, right? We can come home, we can cut the lawn, we can, if you're not me, but we can fix some stuff around the house. We can get up every single day and go to work. We can do those things. But on the test, that's only 25%, right? So let's look at the other 3 areas and really do a deep dive. And I just want to ask you, how are you doing? Don't omit the 3 areas that Jesus is calling you to be obedient in, all right? So heart, emotions. Are you affectionate with your wife and kids? Or does the family only see you when you're hungry, tired, stressed out, and done with the day? And guys, if that one kind of hits you in the heart, don't worry. It's the same thing for me. I call that a Tuesday, okay? It's true. Soul, spirituality. Do you lead your family in faith-filled conversations? Are you asking how you can pray for your kids? Have you put an age-appropriate Bible in their hands? Are you supporting them? Are you encouraging them? Are you spurring them on in their faith? Are you modeling what it looks like to invite a non-believer to church or to have a spiritual conversation with somebody who doesn't know Jesus? Mind, mentally. Are you mentally engaged with your family? When you get out of work and you head home, one practice that I'm in the habit of developing, I'm not quite there yet, is I want the threshold of my house to be sacred. When I walk through that back door, I want to say, whatever happened during the day, I'm leaving it behind me. I'm entering into my house. This is a sanctuary for my kids. I am not going to carry the stresses of my day and put it on my kids. And I'm working on it. But the hard part for me is that sometimes whatever's happening at work or whatever, I carry it through, and then I put that on my family. And that's actually what happened this week. And I just get in this mindset of oh my goodness, I want to go through the door. Maybe you're still on a sales call and the kids run up to tackle you, but you're hushing them away or whatever. Like that's not how we need to be present for our kids when we come through the door at the end of the day. The problem for me is I get so excited about baseball that oftentimes over the course of a 162-game season, I might miss 10 games. And I'm walking through the door with my mind on, I just can't wait to get the game on. I can't wait to watch the game. And as I come through the door, it's like, okay, yeah, get the kids to bed so I can hurry up and turn on the baseball game. And that's not showing up mentally. And I'm working on that myself. I need to work on moderation. I need to work on saying if I miss a game, it's not the end of the world. And we'll see. Hopefully in a couple of years, I can improve in that. Now, for all the parents, I missed a big one here. There's actually, for guys especially, there is a major issue in society, and it's called the father wound. Okay, and it stems from years of disconnected, disengaged, and disappearing fathers in the lives of their kids. It manifests itself in the form of self-defeating negativity, deep emotional pain, and a mindset of, I am only what I can produce. I'm not a person, I'm a performer. And if I can't go out into the world and perform, then I'm worthless. And I realize that it's easy for me to stand up here and throw out some social statistics and by no means intend to unearth any of the complexities that arise in your own personal stories, okay? But I just want you to understand that if you're a parent, if you're a dad especially, you have the opportunity to mirror what our Heavenly Father does in our life, okay? You can be that, you can fill in that void. Even if you're not, the nuclear dad, like you can be there for that kid in your life. And you can model what a relationship with the Heavenly Father looks like right here on earth. For all parents, moms included, you can also mirror that relationship for your kids. As we wrap this up, I want you guys to reflect on your parenting. How can you do better? How can you make a difference in the lives of the kids that God has asked you to steward, to invest in, to start your legacy with? Take that step into leading spiritually at home. It's not that hard. If you get it wrong, so what? You prayed with your kids. If you read a Bible and your kids ask you a question and you don't know the answer, big deal. I know that for the kids in the room, there are some high school and middle school students, and I actually have a word for you too. When your parents leave here, they might try and do something, right? They might try and change maybe their habit. Maybe they're going to want to, pray for you, and if you're a high schooler, you're like, get away from me. Just have the humility to let them try. Give them the benefit of the doubt. Let them reach out to you and try to take that step to help you in your faith journey. Because I know that they want you to grow in your relationship with Christ. I know it. That's why they're here, right? For those of you that really aren't so sure about Christianity, I hope that if nothing else, this has helped you to understand kind of how we view parenting and how we view family here at the church. If this is just a parenting TED Talk, then hopefully I can help you take a step, and I'm fine with that. But I do want to give an invitation for you to join God's family. Adoption is huge, and when we understand what God the Father did for us by giving His Son, we are adopted into His family. It was His idea to create the world that we live in. It was His idea to put us here and to call us His kids. It was God's idea to to correct the mistakes that we made by coming up with a rescue plan to send His perfect Son down for us who are imperfect. And the best part about it is, He did it. He went through with the plan. He didn't just draft up the blueprint and then say, okay, I got an idea. He actually followed through. It was His power that rose Jesus from death, allowed Him to stand victorious over sin and death. And my favorite, if you're a parent, you have little kids, this is how they describe God's love in the Jesus Storybook Bible. It says that God the Father loves us with a never-stopping, never giving up, unbreaking, always and forever love, which is why it was His idea to make it available to everyone, including you. So He's inviting you to a saving faith through His Son today.
As a church, it's our honor to be a small part in all that God is doing in and through your life, and we would love to continue with you on that journey. To find out what your next steps could be in your relationship with Christ, all you have to do is go to kenosha.church/next. Thanks again for visiting us online today. We'd love for you to join us in person on Sundays at our 9 o'clock or 10:45 a.m. service. Here are some interesting events happening in Emmanuel in the coming weeks. Going public with your faith is the next step after you come to know Jesus. Jesus demonstrated this through baptism. Baptisms are one of the most exciting events you can witness. When you get baptized, you're going public with your faith. You're telling the world that you're now in a personal, permanent relationship with the God of the universe. Baptism is a practice that followers of Jesus have done for thousands of years, symbolizing our joining together with Jesus in His death and resurrection, as we have died to our sins and have been given new life. To sign up, go to kenosha.church/baptism. Baptisms happen during both services.